Go.
Okay, I call this meeting to order. Taking roll call from my right, please.
Sam Rosling.
Ron Goodman.
Elida Snow.
Rob Delmas.
Ellen Johnston.
Okay, today we are going over the consideration of charter school application, and under that, the school name. That's
Well, you got it. So we have a proposal from the students of calling it Libby's Central School Charter School.
Libby Central Charter School.
Central Charter School.
Okay.
And that was, I would say, 80% of the kids. The rest of them, there was about 3 options. And so we started off with a primary, and then we voted with 2. And so that was the deal. And I think it's kind of good. And so,
what were the other ones?
oh, there was a bunch of them. And so alt school, charter school, yeah. And so, but they did a good job. They did a primary, and they got a bunch of people together. They came up with options, primaried it, and then they did the general election.
Very cool.
The other thing that I would say is this. You have this in front of you. They give you the application. Yeah. Go ahead and pass those down. And I want to detail a couple of things that I think are important. And then if you have any questions after that, I'd be glad to. The first one is page 5 of 25. And what we're looking at is a public charter school that serves grades 10 through 12. The reason that we didn't want to choose 9 is that it's hard for a kid to be credit deficient in their freshman year. But I'd be curious in your thoughts on that.
No, that sounds reasonable. But ultimately, I think the goal is to try to keep all the kids in the high school, but we all know that there's a need, an additional need. So, I mean, why would we want to start them out in the charter school?
Agreed, but my only thought on that is there are other reasons other than credit deficient that they would be joining. So what will you do with those ones?
Good question. Mr. Beagle and I talked about this. So over the years, when this was the alternative schools upstairs, I think I sent 3 kids in the number of years that I was there. And those were kids that had to be there because of safety issues or just other special needs that needed to take place. So at that point, we would still be able to send a kid up there, and we would just provide services from their school. And so it would be still something that would take place. Like currently, we have students upstairs that are not part of the alternative school, but they need a specific place to be. And we could still do things like that.
So the 9th grade could potentially just join their class, but not be considered part of the charter school?
Yeah, they would, if they had to come up here, if they needed to come to this building because of safety reasons or because of whether physical needs that they might have to have. Like for example, we've had kids that needed a lot of strength to deal with. Mm-hmm. And so that would be no different.
So this would eliminate us from being able to have a freshman or a 9th grader in the charter school.
Yeah, or unless they were, they would still be able to get credit.
Yeah.
So one-off event I think would still be fine. If a kid had to come because of medical reasons meaning suicidal ideation, mm-hmm. we're not going to stop from doing that.
Right. So how does that affect our numbers? We have 30 kids up there. What are their age groups? Like, how many freshmen do we have currently?
Well, right now we have 36 kids.
No freshmen.
And
freshmen right now. Last year there was. Last year, I don't believe you have them this year.
This year there are no, so there are 30.
I just don't see us having a problem with the 40 number.
Okay, because that was my worry.
You said we're sitting at 36, so we need to pick up 4 more. What happens if we fall below that 40 or we don't reach the 40?
I don't think that would be a huge deal if you did it once. 2 years.
There's like a buffer,
yeah.
Imagine.
Okay. Well, wasn't that in our application too, that there was a kind of a stair step enrollment
Yeah,
thing?
it's on page 5.
Okay, yes.
I don't, and again, at this point, I still have three applications on my desk, and I don't know why, I don't know when I'm gonna have that conversation with somebody about how the kid can't come to school here. The big push for me, and I guess, and I'll show you this in a little bit on the entrance ranking. We just don't want to let anybody in. So I don't want this to be an open door for a bunch of kids to come here, and that's just not the goal. It's to try and get a bunch of students in. In fact, let's just have this conversation right now. Here's this entrance. If there is more kids than, let's just say 60 kids apply for this. Well, here we have this deal to say, hey, this is how we rank you. So number one, if you look on the top left, has a category teacher recommendation. So if a teacher says this, very strong recommendation, student's application suggests a strong fit. All these things in that far left column are good. And you notice that attendance, homeschool, if you're a homeschool student, that lands you 5 points. And if you have less than 16 credits and you're getting in there, obviously a senior who is going to be credit deficient is going to need more weight than a freshman that's credit deficient. And so that's how that's going to work. And we actually got to walk through this with a real student. We had the application, we walked through it, and we thought it was pretty good.
Nice.
So, yeah. So again, if a student is a valedictorian and nobody is suggesting that they get to come in, they're not going to be able to make it. And that's the goal. We really want students that are in need of something different to be successful.
I guess I'm kind of missing something here. I don't understand what the cons of doing a charter school would be. From the beginning, I didn't understand why anybody would be against this. What have you heard the negatives for having this charter school? Why wouldn't we do this?
Yeah, I think that is based on the fact that if kids are unsuccessful, and then they need to pay those consequences. And unfortunately, there isn't going to be any consequences. I mean, if you're being unsuccessful and you don't know anything different than that, you're going to head off and you're going to leave the school and you're going to go and do whatever they do. I don't think there's ever going to be a consequence that will say, hey, I need to go back and get my GED or I'm going to go do something. And well, Sam, I'm going to take you a little bit off that course and talk to you a little bit about what I think is most important. And that is page 25. And I tried to make Ruth make it bigger, but it didn't fit. And this is the Search Institute, and I'm a big fan of the Search Institute. A bigger fan now than I was 20 years ago. Search Institute first came out with page 25. Page 8 of 25. I'm sorry.
Oh, okay. I was like.
There's 25 there. It said 25 on it.
One of those.
25. I thought, well, that.
Yeah, how does she make that bigger? It's nothing on it.
So I will just say this, back in 1995 when I started teaching in America, and I taught for 3 years, and then I was asked by the superintendent in Idaho Falls to be not the charter school. They talked about that too, but he wanted me to do the middle school alternative school. And that was the goal, is what are we going to do with these kids? Of course, we're talking 4,000 middle school students in Idaho Falls. What are we doing with these kids that are not being successful? And there was like 15, 16 of them that he was, and they were tough turkeys. But they had the assets that the Search Institute did, and went through there and said, all of the kids in my class don't have any of these assets. Now, what do we do about it? And so this has come out, and here's what they have is this developmental relationships. So again, on page 8 of 25, the elements, the first thing that you do is express care, you build relationships, and that's the first step, where they say, hey, this person cares for me. It doesn't mean that we can't correct them or anything like that. But then the second step is you challenge growth. So once Ron Goodman feels like Elida's in my corner, and the next thing Elida has to do is say, we need to talk about how you need to change the way that you do business. We need to talk about your academic skills. We need to talk about your behaviors. And what I can see upstairs is that challenging growth is ending supported. So if I'm trying to stop eating cookies, I'm going to need somebody who cares about me and say, Ron, you need to cut back on your cookies. And why is that? Well, because you're turning into a cookie. And they challenge me, and then they turn around and say, I'm going to help you do this. It's not just, Ron, you need to do this by yourself. It is a caring person that walks along, and this in my mind is the internal engine that makes this whole thing work. And I think we do a pretty good job of that. Are we ready to challenge kids more? Yes, I think that's the issue. And I think what people who are against these things see as probably a lack of challenge.
Mm-hmm.
If that makes any sense.
So essentially, we're taking the all school and we're refining it, giving it a mission statement and more goals, and trying to help these kids in the next step of life.
Bingo.
Mm-hmm. Say, I feel like it's something we already have done in the past. We just are making it official.
Official,
Yeah.
yeah.
And I think we can improve.
Yes.
And I think we can improve on this. We know that kids have to have literacy skills and they need to have numeracy skills. They have to be able to read well, and they have to be able to have mathematics skills. They need to know how to calculate a percentage. If I'm going to be paying 4% on this, you're going to pay 7% on this loan, this is going to be a deal. They have to have that. But that all goes back to that whole issue of understanding that somebody cares about them. That is the foundation of human. And there's a very successful school in Whitefish that does this. I had a conversation with him last summer because as we were talking about this, and he said, I'm a math teacher. And he said, I will never try to teach a kid algebra or any kind of math until I get them to a place where they trust me and that they can be a human.
Mm-hmm.
That's the deal. And so, yeah, I just look at this and I think, I don't even want to say that, knock on wood, we haven't had any bad behaviors upstairs. They don't feel the need to do that. So that is one of the big key ingredients. So if somebody says, what's the deal with the new charter school? What are they trying to do? Well, number one, we're building a relationship with kids who don't have enough relationships. That is the missing ingredient in so many of their lives, is they don't have those supports. And so we're expressing care, and then we're challenging growth, and then we're going to provide support for what they find is very difficult to do. By the way, we're having goals of attendance right now, and it's kind of a silly little thing. Of course, it goes back to cookies. 5 days. You make 5 days, you get a cookie at 2:00. And this is hopefully going to be something, we're not paying them to do this, we're acknowledging with it. And so there's going to be a little celebration, good job. And we have a couple students upstairs who are notoriously not very good at attendance. And I think, well, so far they've been there.
Is it on a weekly thing, like on Friday if you've been here all week, so it starts over every week?
Every week.
Okay.
Absolutely. And we have a monthly event too, 90% attendance for the month, cookie as well.
So will they have all the opportunities that the high school kids do, as far as like maybe getting into welding or truck driving? I mean, it kind of says that here at the top. I mean, they'll have the opportunity to do internships potentially down the line.
Yes. So, and we've done that. Music, the things that we're not going to do, we've taken kids over. They do music classes, their choir, and so if we can ferry those guys back and forth, we've done that in the past successfully.
So a little
Good question.
curious here, when it's talking about the learning environment, it says the class size will be capped at 15. So I'm just thinking, I thought we were gonna have 2 teachers, and if we have
And a
40 kids, so a para can teach a class.
Yeah.
So that's where we
Make it
could
up.
get away with 60.
I don't know if we go to 60, we're going to have another teacher. We don't want to go to, 60. Well, I would take that back. I mean, the other thing is, we're not just talking about, I want to keep as many kids at the high school as possible. That's the goal. But we're also dealing with a large number of students that are homeschooled. And that, in my mind, I mean, if they're doing a good job with the homeschooling, game on, let them continue. That's, you know, if they're working on quantum physics and in their homeschool situation and they're, you know, ready to be heading off to, you know, Purdue or something like that, good job. That's great. My concern is that there's a lot of those kids that are homeschooled that aren't doing anything. And that's what, in my mind, that's a real target. And so that, I see that as, and the other thing is, there's students who have been unsuccessful in other schools in this county, and that's also noted in this as well, as far as there's open enrollment in this county. And so they would have to go through that same sieve and saying, okay, so a kid from Troy or a kid from, I mean, Eureka, that's not going to happen. That'd be a heck of a long drive every day. But I could see some kids from Troy that have not been successful, and I wouldn't mind picking them up as well. And I don't think Troy would mind either. They keep asking me, will you take them? No, are you kidding? So, yeah.
The charter school, they potentially would qualify though.
Mhm.
So I guess my question is like, some of these have like caps and limits, like, what if this is very successful and we need to include ninth grade, or we need to go above 60, like, just in the future, is it a matter of putting together another application with different qualifications, or can it grow naturally? Like, what does that look like in the future?
That's a good question. So how about there's a lady that we've been corresponding with, and I think I'll just ask that question.
Yeah.
And I don't see it being an issue this year. I don't know how hard that is to change. But
Well, and that was just kind of, yeah, this is great for beginning, but in the
And they're
future,
projected to go up to 60 students in a 5-year time span.
right?
There would be a cap.
Allowing for quite a bit of growth.
There would be a cap though as well.
Obviously, just because of the building and such, right?
Right,
yeah.
yeah,
And again, I look at that, I think there's quite a few people that are homeschooled. And even if they came up and wanted to participate in whatever we were doing, for example, the JMG, you know, if you look through that, the JMG, the 37 core competence, they have to write a resume, they have to participate in an interview. There's 2 of them, there's a whole bunch we need to know more, but even if we didn't know any more, those 37 tasks that they have to complete, they're great. They're super. And so I just know that those have been, and Mr. Harriet's done that in the past, and he's pretty excited to come back and do it again. And they actually give us money to do it. $4,000 this year, $5,000 the next year. So I was like, well, what's the cost of implementation? If it doesn't cost anything, they give us money. What the heck? Good deal. And so.
Well, I have
Go
a
ahead.
question on the application. So let's say a kid applies beginning of the year, we accept them, they go into the charter school, 6 months in, we realize it's not a great fit and that they want to go back to the high school or go to the high school. What does that process look like?
As long as they're in district, they can go back.
They can go back?
Mhm.
Okay.
Yep, that would be my understanding. So one of the things on this open enrollment procedures, the sticky part is if you're out of district.
Yeah, okay.
Leslie, would you disagree with that?
They can transfer back and forth between schools. We're basically doing it right now.
Yeah.
Moving kids from the high school over to the alt school, and then sometimes there's been kids that go from the alt back to the high school.
I was just concerned that because it's a different, not different, but a application process that they couldn't go back. I just want to make
a
sure.
different school.
Yeah, we're not pigeonholing them. And then I guess really I only have one last question is funding. So we get a certain dollar amount funding for it. What is that funding going to look like and what is it going to be used for?
That's the next budget and finance meeting, because if you look at the numbers.
I'm glad to see you have our calendar figured out for us. Sorry.
Approved.
All bigger. Yeah, that's a great deal. If you look on page 19 of 25, we have these estimated basic entitlement, and I don't want to say too much about this because I'll let Leslie talk the most about this, but you know, if we pick up 40 students and we look at how many kids are new, the estimated revenue, it's a pretty big number. And so year one, we're estimating $434,000. That's new monies. That's not robbing Peter to pay Paul. And I look at this and I think Sam's question is, what's the downside? I like the idea of saying for a kid that's been unsuccessful in our school district, if we can make them successful, I don't see a downside on that. If this cost us $15 and we say, well, the cost of that, I think it's well worth it. If it costs us if it costs us more money than that, then I think it's well worth it. But in this situation, if we can be beneficial to our students and pick up $400,000, how do you walk away from that?
Because I have a feeling that that's going to be the sticking point with the community is if our school district is getting $400,000 extra a year, what are we going to be using it on? And how will that benefit the charter school and the existing schools?
And existing, it will be a definite advantage. And
Kind of the same scenario as building our own kitchen. We were running in a deficit for so long. We finally built our own kitchen, supply our own food, and now that kitchen is totally self-sustaining, which created a big general fund savings. And this is going to do the same thing. Right now, our general fund pays for everything upstairs. They really don't even have a budget. This will take care of all their needs, which will create a large general fund savings that we can start addressing other issues such as even some of our facility issues or, the different things that right now general fund doesn't cover. We can start having some savings there.
So we'll be able to help like with building in grounds and
Exactly.
it will help,
Diesel
it'll help
still
the
doing
entire
that.
pre-K-12 district.
Yeah.
I'm more looking for talking points for the community because I've already had questions asked of me. I just want to make sure that we're not going to need that money in 3 years and let's say the charter school goes away and we've pigeonholed ourselves into, we have $400,000, let's spend it, and now we lose the charter school. Now we're in a deficit. Yeah. That's my main concern with this whole thing is that is a lot of money and I would hate to use it for things that will expire.
Leslie, Stacy, and myself have already had these conversations, and even looking at some of the needs that we have in our facilities. If we go ahead and say we fix a roof every year, and we know that we can refurbish our roofs if we stay on top of it, and that's basically half the cost. Well, half the cost of fixing a roof is still a big number. It's like $300,000. And I look at that and I say, I know that this is coming up. There's going to be a price tag to pay for this stuff. You're going to have to fix these roofs eventually. And I look at that and say, hey, if we do this for 4 or 5 years and we take care of it, at the end of it, nobody is going to say, well, we have this contractual agreement that we have to pay a salary that we can't afford. And so I would see salaries would be dangerous to put this into. But if we put it into items that are
Like
not
bleachers.
renewable.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, and I guess since you said it, I was not thinking it, but since you said it, I'll go ahead and talk on that. That would be one of my concerns is that people see this number and go, oh, we can now negotiate for more bigger, higher salaries, and that would be dangerous.
That would be dangerous.
I never thought of that before.
From a political standpoint, I've had conversations with other superintendents that are doing this, and I see what's taking place across the state. And my guess is that there's some legislators that are going, this is not what we anticipated. And some of these are kind of on the edge as far as how is this good for kids. So, for example, if you're giving people, a laptop in a curriculum and then saying that's part of your school district, it's almost like luring kids into homeschool. And I just don't think that's the best education anyway. And so, but I don't think that the legislator had any mind of finding out a way that this is how it's going to fund kids through homeschool. Really? That's not what they, I'm sure, had in their mind. So I would imagine that there will be some changes coming. And so I don't think we can look at this and say, this is going to be good for the next 15, 20 years. I don't think that's the case.
But at this point, really all we're picking up for staff is one teacher and one para that we're not already covering, correct?
Mhm.
So if charter school goes away in 2 years, we would just have to let let go or cover one para and one
Mhm.
teacher, correct?
Yeah, and
Okay.
that,
Because the rest of it's kind of divvied up, right?
and to Sam's point, let's just say that that takes place and we lose all this money after 2 years, and now we're back to just A and B. Well, we don't fix as many roofs, and there's still enough enough A and B upstairs. It's still a good deal upstairs.
Yeah.
It's a very, very efficient school as far as saying that we have 30-some kids upstairs, a teacher, and a paraprofessional. There's not many more costs. We're not just,
Mhm.
it's really pretty, it's pretty,
In my mind, it should be used as a one-time thing, at least until it's well established and you can see what the legislature's.
Right,
Sure,
yeah.
Just like we did the ESSER money.
yeah, I guess I'm kind of, from the public perspective as well, I would be concerned that, and I'm not saying none of that money would go to these 40 kids, but what of that money would go to help improve what we're trying to do with the charter school? That's kind of full circle where my main question now is pointing towards is, this money is essentially earmarked for those 40 kids, not earmarked, I shouldn't use that word, but we're getting it because we're creating a charter school. What of that money is going to help build this charter school?
sure.
That would be my concern as it is as a member of the public, that we don't just create a charter school for $400,000 and then we use it over here.
Yeah.
And then the charter school gets nothing and we haven't improved anything in their educational thing. That's my concern.
No, I think one of the things that has to happen upstairs is there needs to be there's a lot of maintenance that needs to be, that hasn't been painted since Columbus cruised through here. And I mean, there's a lot of things that can be done. But bottom line is, they're already supplementing the district at this point. And so, this is kind of interesting. When I did alternative school in Idaho Falls, there was a money-making event for Bonneville School District as well. And they were pretty tickled pink with that. And so I think there needs to be a balance there. I think the big issue is we do not want to make that money something that we are going to have recurring. Like Leslie said, this is one-time money.
Yeah.
And so budget and finance, that's actually next meeting coming up on the 7th, I think. How are we going to spend that money?
Yeah, I do,
Mhm.
like I said.
I mean, there's going to be additional costs. We're going to have
Correct.
more assessment costs, supplies. We'll probably, even have to get some new, maybe student furniture,
Yeah.
some new computers. I mean, there's definitely going to be costs for it there.
Yeah, and I would like to see that more, is that I mean, I know you guys were gonna do that. I'm not saying we're not, but I do think that would be the huge sticking point with the public, is that it's still taxpayer dollars.
Sure.
And I would like to make sure we're improving their educational
And I think
environment.
it would also be another way to put this is that will benefit the district, not like a certain high school or a certain
Sure.
elementary school. There's years when one school is going to get more because they have to have more. And so if we think as far as a district and think in terms of one-time money instead of, well, this is going to continue forever and ever. Well, we negotiate that away.
Yeah.
That's what hurts.
It would be a shame if we started the charter school and let's say it goes away in 2 years and then we go upstairs and it looks exactly the
The
same.
same.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah, exactly.
That would be a shame.
So from a bookkeeping accounting point of view, like, is that gonna be two different schools you're gonna have to, like, are there gonna be two trustee financial reports every month? Like,
No,
Okay.
because we are already a K-12 district, it will encompass into our district, so it'll just fit in just like another school, just like that high school and elementary.
okay,
It'll all be one big budget, but they'll just be a component of the budget.
okay, got you. So
Same
it's not
school
like,
board, all under
Okay.
the same school board, we don't have to make any changes there or anything,
okay,
just very nice.
So I'm going to pivot just a little bit here. So the big emphasis is, of course, credit recovery, but the other thing is, we have academic, social, emotional, and job and career. So these are the trifecta of things. We want students who have lost faith in themselves to have faith in themselves. And then we want to challenge them so that when they walk out of here, they're going to be paying taxes, because I want them paying taxes, social security taxes in particular, the next 6 years. And so there is this little handout that I think Ruth did a nice job with. It's not going to be completely accurate. One of the things, but the goal of every student, and this is pretty close right now. Every student has an individual plan that we've met with their parents. Yep. We've met with their parents and dealt with behavioral and academic. And so it's basically, Ruth calls it a learning plan. I would call it whatever you want to call it, but it's basically we're start off and we're going to try and meet their academic needs, and we're going to meet their behavioral needs and sometimes their emotional needs. And so those are the key ingredients that we're really after. And so we have already been doing that, I think, pretty successfully. I think working with the CHC, Rita Bill has been a big help. It's you're looking there at the Sears. It's a social emotional score. So when we make these plans, we will have social emotional scores that we can quantify, which is kind of a nice deal. We'll also have academic information that we can quantify, and we can also have behavioral. So there's the three things that we will have data on and be able to make these plans with parents.
So will Rita or CHC or somebody of that department meet with every student that comes in, or just as the school sees fit?
As needed.
As needed, okay.
Yep. And they've been really good with that, actually.
Okay.
So flash forward a year from now, we're X amount of months into the charter school. How are we going to get our questions answered if we have a charter school question? Is that going to be you, or are we going to have a lead or somebody here representing the charter school? I mean, obviously you oversee everything, so.
So Mr. Beagle will be the principal.
Okay.
Yeah, and we will work together on that like we do now.
Sure. So Scott will be able to give us an overview of what's going on.
So one other document that is in there is a lot of the prorated. So school counselors, school principals, all this kind of stuff. They have to have all that. And at this point, we won't have to hire anybody because we're able to shuffle it in.
Except for a teacher and a
Teacher and a
Yeah.
parent.
and a para, right? Okay.
But no administrative staff.
Yeah.
We'll just work for them.
So will he give us a charter school report every month?
Oh, I
Or
think
is that,
great.
okay. He's gonna love that.
That's where
That's what I thought you were talking about. I just want to clarify.
Well, I mean, if we have questions, I mean,
Yeah.
aside from.
Who to reach out to.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And again, Mr. Beagle and I already work together on that. I don't see that changing much, other than it's nice not to have a principal for 40 kids.
This is nice. I like this.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, it puts a lot of structure to it.
It does.
And again, the bigger issue in all this stuff is we have academic problems upstairs. It's one of the reasons they're here. The other thing is this whole social emotional. They've lost faith in themselves, and they've lowered their expectations for themselves. And all of that goes together. The academic, the social constructs that they're in, and the problems that they find themselves in are all connected. And what's made them unsuccessful academically is the exact same thing that's getting them in trouble. And so,
That being said, are you concerned that the current alt school kids, are you concerned that we are going to push them out and they're going to feel like this is moving too fast, or and this isn't for them anymore? And I don't want to create a charter school, then another alt school in 2 years.
So, and that's really interesting you said that, Sam, because my thought originally was, why would we want to have 40 kids? We have like 22 kids upstairs. Well, this year, am I talking like 36 kids upstairs right now?
It's a lot.
4 more kids. Uh-huh, yeah. And when we hit 30, I'm like, okay, what's 10 more? And unfortunately, a lot of the students don't have really good attendance. So if we had 40 kids up there, you're probably gonna have an average of 33, 34 kids upstairs. But I'm just looking at that, and it's just like, it doesn't feel full. I mean, it's a lot noisier. We increased the number of students from last year by 50%. And these floors were like a drum. Yeah, you've heard it, haven't you? It's a lot louder than it was last year, that's for sure. But again, there's 50% more students. So yeah,
The integration of those new students has been smooth then?
knocking on wood. Yeah,
And I imagine there's gotta be a few that are gonna say, this isn't what I came over here for. And what are your plans with them to try to help move them in, or?
there's really, you look at that and say, right now, there's 2 places for kids to be, and in the afternoon, there's usually 3, because they'll do art in the afternoon, and they'll get divvied up by 3. That hasn't been a problem, but if we can divvy it up 4 ways, that's still 10 kids in a room with an adult.
So you think there'll still be room for those
I think
kids?
so.
Okay.
When I was in Idaho Falls, I worked in the alternative school, and they had 60 kids in a school half this size. They didn't have a theater, just locked this off, and it wasn't very big. And I mean, 60 kids, there was some conflicts, but not as much as you'd think. And there's always going to be some conflicts upstairs.
Yeah.
But yeah, so they stuck 60 kids in Bonneville School District for high school, and that was pretty well functioning event. Now, I'm not going to say that there's going to be stuff that happens. I guarantee you that. You take that many kids and put them in there that have the ability to do silly things, there's going to be stuff. I mean, we had a little situation today. It wasn't a kid situation, it was a parent situation. But everything ended fine. But there was potential there. So you have that many kids with a lot of high needs, stuff can happen. But I don't know. Stacy, Leslie, you guys have been around. Has there been?
To be honest, over the last, how long have I been here? 16 years? Since you have been in this building, I have seen a dramatic change upstairs. Behavioral, I mean, we notice it, because we see these kids every day, we hear these kids every day, and it has been a big improvement. And even just having the kitchen here, giving the kids a chance for on-the-job and kitchen training, and just the support of the kitchen staff with these kids has made a huge difference. Having Susie Rios upstairs now, and I love the ink upstairs. It's just like the caring environment has grown. I've seen a huge change.
And you think this will help even
I
refine it even more? It's good.
really do.
I appreciate very much, again, Susie Rios. Anybody from the county, we're lifting $200 a month out of her, but I appreciate her being there. And she's a skilled person. She's had a lot of experience in these things, and she's part of our team. We meet on Thursdays after school and talk about who's doing well, who's not doing well. Overall, what are the things that are going well? Overall, what are the things going wrong? Who are we concerned about? And she sits in on those meetings, and she chases girls out of the bathroom as needed too. That's good, because I'm not chasing girls out of the bathroom. And here's Dean. But the other thing, like she said, the Love Inc. folks, I don't know if you know this, but last year, towards the end of the year, they had graduation upstairs, and they asked, can we come too? I said, well, sure you can. And so they had gifts for some of the kids. And at the end of it, they said, basically, this is kind of a cheesy celebration party. Can we do it next year for you guys? And David had told me, same thing, goes, this is kind of dull. We walk him up there and say hi. Goes, we need to make this a little snappier. Can I be in charge of that next year? Yes, that's fine, David. And so what we see is a bunch of people who are connecting with these kids, and we know that one meaningful adult is good. That's what it takes. But 3 or 4 is way better. So one of the things that I would say, I have to go to these classes with my wife. It's kind of because she's a Love executive director. One way to define poverty, I think it's more accurate, is relationship. How many people are you connected with? And so if I lost my job and had to find a place to live, I could live with my brother. He wouldn't be happy about it, but I know he wouldn't tell me no. My mom, I could go live with my kids. That'd be interesting. I have a lot of places I go. There's a lot of people, when you talk poverty, they don't have those options. That's what they don't have that connection, so. Yeah, so it's interesting. I do see this is not easy work and it's not clean work either. Kids are always going to do silly things, whether it's any school. I mean, I was a pretty good kid growing up. I got caught, I don't know, 5% of the time. But there will be, like I said, Sam, there's gonna be stuff that takes place that
There's stuff that happens at the high school.
That's what I was
There you go.
gonna say. There's stuff that happens every school, so.
Yep.
Okay, so any other questions or comments? We do need a motion, correct? Like, okay.
Are we approving the charter school or just the application?
The application,
And then when the application gets accepted, then what?
I think we're good to go.
Then we're just, so essentially we are approving the school.
Approving the charter school, yeah.
That was the only,
And I don't know if you caught this, but when Leslie said we're a K-12 school, they're just gonna stick one more. We don't have to change a bunch of things budget-wise. It's gonna be pretty, I mean, it really, I'm looking at this and going, this is as easy as we could ever imagine. And we pick up,
So this would be like having 2 elementary schools,
Right.
except for we have 2 high schools, right? Okay.
yep, rewind 15 years.
Right.
I make a motion, we approve the Libby Central Charter School application.
Second.
I have a motion by Sam and a second by Ellen to approve the Libby Charter School application. Any questions or comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion passed. Okay. Anything else before we adjourn?
No, I would just say this is going to be a very good thing for our general budget. And that's not a bad thing with life the way it is right now. And the other thing, I think it'll be good for kids. If it doesn't shake out well, you don't have to stick with it.
Okay, I need a motion to adjourn.
I move we adjourn this meeting.
Second.
I have a motion by Ellen and a second by Rob to adjourn the meeting. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion passed.